Hey everybody, welcome to the morning market briefing. It's Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. Last day of the first quarter. Fast quarter. On 1 to 10 scale, Tom, how fast was the quarter?
I'd say at least 8.5.
Yeah, it was moving.
We were moving. I feel like there were a lot of days off.
Yeah, they sneak them in there.
Yeah, so first quarter always goes quickly. Third quarter is always longest. People forget there are no federal holidays in the month of August.
No,
And it's a 30-1-er.
Nobody's talking about that.
So
Yeah, and you just think of even the things that we've covered on this call so far in 2026. Maduro seems like a long time ago.
yes.
TK, you had a wild quarter. You were working at a sushi restaurant. You went to Japan. You moved.
Lots of skiing. Checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
Are you an anime guy? Are you like a big Japanophile?
I don't really. I like some anime.
Fired.
Careful.
Fired.
Careful.
Gone. No cartoons.
Yeah.
At Narwhal.
Careful.
I like. My roommate put me on a couple shows this year, but like the ones that they blare over the loudspeakers with the giant Times Square-esque.
They play
everywhere.
cartoons in Times Square, the Times Square of Tokyo.
Oh my gosh!
I've never been to Japan.
Imagine Times Square, but like 6 times the amount of noise and 5 times the amount of stimulation.
And 100% fewer homeless people.
Well, you couldn't even tell there's so many people walking around. But yeah, no homeless people.
Pretty clean city, though, right?
Yeah, because they have, the
Robots?
weirdest thing is they have no garbage cans anywhere, so I don't honestly know how it's so clean. But they have these people that come around and are just like picking up trash all the time. So it's pretty clean. Maybe we need get a couple.
Salt Lake City's that way, though, as well. When I was there.
You get the
very
Lost
clean,
Boys,
and there
though.
was like hundreds of people just picking up trash all the time.
Definitely downtown.
I was there for 3 days. So,
You got to find your spots.
Yeah.
My old apartment is definitely not one of those spots.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that a college boy's apartment was real clean.
I've heard though that there's quite the big homeless problem in Utah is Lost Boys, who get kicked off to make room for the polygamy situation where you can't have enough. If there's too many dudes, you can only have so many wives, and so like they kick them out at like 16, and they're like out there lost like Amish who get kicked out. Like no,
Did you ever run in with them?
you run any Lost
Was that your
Boys?
crowd?
Man, I don't say I ran in any Lost Boys, but there is definitely a small square of Salt Lake City, like just in the outskirts. That's where all the homeless people are at. Kicking my car
Containment.
and stealing my ski boots.
Man, that's tough. I hate when my ski boots get stolen. It's never a good day.
Mhm.
All right, let's talk about the war. We're going to get to some interesting Hegseth stories as well. We'll get some commentary on Jay Powell via Ryan, who's not on the call, but we will read Ryan's thoughts and represent him as fairly as possible. And we do have some M&A activity back on the board, so things picking up a little bit, at least on that front. But Trump, Wall Street Journal reporting that he's not necessarily seeing the Strait of Hormuz as something that has to be opened before the completion of the war. Two things that stand out to me. First is, I don't want to pretend that I have a timeline on when this thing's wrapping up and when we're done. I do think, though, we have continually skewed towards the longer tail of time horizon on this. Everyone has. When you hear something like that, regardless of your view on what the status of the Strait of Hormuz should be, you have to at least recognize that, well, this is a deviation and perhaps the timeline is shorter than feared. And I don't think that side of this conflict has been addressed really by anybody. And it's not like I'm sitting here with a high degree of confidence that this thing's almost over. I'm not. I continue to think it's closer to the end than the beginning, but that's more just kind of trying to read the tea leaves and figure out what's going on. But when you hear that commentary, number one is clearly Trump is ready to wrap this up, at least on some level. Second thing, I just don't know that I buy this point. I know that that's being reported. A lot has been said. This flies in the face of what Marco Rubio said yesterday in an interview, in which he said the Strait of Hormuz will be open one way or the other. Option one is through a negotiated settlement, essentially, and option two is we take it. So I don't think that Trump and Rubio and Hegseth and others are operating on such different pages. I think the way we should interpret this, if this communication is to be believed from Trump, is much more so as an indication that he thinks we're closer to this thing being done and that that was not an initial objective of the war.
Yeah, I think that if you look back at all the things that have happened, even in the last 5 years, there's been a tendency to pull forward all of the possible negative outcomes and accumulate them all in a short period of time. Like COVID, we lost, 10 people in the first week. And so the assumption was that we were going to see a third of the population of the earth get wiped out. We assumed that the U.S. economy, and even I believe it was J.P. Morgan came out, or Morgan Stanley, one of the Morgans came out and said that GDP was going to crater by 40%, and we should strap in for the worst economic period of the last 250 years. None of that happened. But the market reacted as if that did happen. You go to Liberation Day last year, we were heading towards economic destruction with the tariffs. There would be no food on the shelves, no toys on the shelves for Christmas. That did not happen. If you look at all of the experts who said that the big, beautiful bill prior to the election was going to add trillions of dollars of expense and that we were going to spiral out of control and be destroyed, that didn't happen. But the market moved on all of those things, and none of those things have happened. And I think that that's important to extrapolate in this scenario, which is I don't know what's going to happen with the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know what's going to happen with oil prices, but I can assure you that all of the people saying that we're going to have $200 oil for the next 5 years don't know that either and should be discounted at a really high rate. And also, the idea that the leverage is all in Iran's hand, I think is actually not true. You're already seeing people who would be considered more like them, Saudi Arabia and UAE, turning on them. And at a certain point, we don't really need the Strait of Hormuz to be open, but China does, Japan does, Russia does, a lot of Europe does.
Countries that we may view as adversarial are also going to put pressure on Iran over the same issue we're talking about.
Yeah, and additionally, if they can't get it open, then they're going to have to cap their oil wells, at which point they have zero economy. And if you add to that the fact that there's a real possibility, because, decisiveness is certainly something wrong or right that has been big in the Trump administration, is he might just very well blow up their energy infrastructure, all of their power generation and their desalinization plants, at which point, good luck. You have no water and no power in the desert, and you've got these wells you're going to have to cap, and Russia and China now hate your guts. That's a bad situation to be in, especially if you're notoriously hostile to kind of everybody for the last 47 years.
I feel like we've talked about the impact of the oil industry specifically on everyday consumers, and I feel like, Tom, you and I have drawn back to the kind of 08, 09, even 2010 challenges, like literally waiting in line to get gas. I got in a fender bender at a gas station, somebody coming in hot, and there was like 18 cars waiting to get gas. We haven't seen that. And like hand in the air, there was a period probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. I got a little concerned about that. My wife was out of town. I was driving her car because it was more fuel efficient, and I was filling it up every chance I got. The headline this morning is that now the national average on the price of gas has passed $4 a gallon.
Which was the average gas price for the entire Biden administration.
I mean, it's pretty interesting to me. Like I'm looking at historical average national gas prices. In July of 2008, it was higher. And think of the inflation that we have had since then on the rest of the economy. The $4 sticker shock, it resonates, and I am not discounting the fact that it is harder to do business if you are dependent on gasoline, that it is more expensive for consumers if you need gasoline. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. But on the scale, I don't know that the $4 gas price is the sticker shock that it was in 2008.
Man, are spreads between a gallon of milk and a gallon of gas as tight as they've ever been? Because I don't know what a gallon of milk was in 2008, but I guarantee you it was the ratio between gallon of milk and gallon of gas was much wider than it is now.
And, I mean, you just look at some of the historical moves in oil. At the end of February 2022, gasoline was $3.53. That's the nationwide average. At the end of March, it was $4.24. And that's a huge, quick move.
Another expert's wrong was that inflation was transitory in 2022, and then it was going to come right back down, and then it was caused by the war in Ukraine, which
Putin's price hike.
Let me look around here. Oh, it's still going, and yet inflation has come down. So that obviously was also incorrect. But if you looked anywhere, that's what it was. And let's not even get into shrinkflation, which would actually, and the robber barons, Kroger, and
how dare they make 1% margins on their groceries?
Yeah, you forget that they were being price gouged by the evil grocery businesses.
Yeah, I think if you're listening to this and you just are hearing us rant, I think the takeaway here is I don't think anybody really knows how this is going to resolve. I am increasingly skeptical of the widespread reporting that all seems to be on the same page. And frankly, lacking. These are the same people last week that said Trump wasn't negotiating with anyone. And at the end of last week, we had a counter proposal from Iran. As I said to a friend who's on another podcast that I do, Your Money This Week on Fridays, he has a JD and he loves to brag about it. That's pretty much all he talks about. But I asked him.
Hey, so does Trump.
Yeah, I asked
JD
him.
Vance.
I asked my friend Sammy. I said, "Hey, as an attorney, would you ever start legal proceedings with a countersuit? Like you haven't been sued, but let's just go ahead and start a countersuit." So the same people that said these negotiations were not happening are the same people saying, "Hey, the strait's gonna be closed, and we know exactly what the impact's gonna be." Hegseth is in hot water right now. Reportedly, his broker at Morgan Stanley called BlackRock trying to buy IDEF, which is a defense industrials active ETF, shortly before the Iranian military action took place. The funniest part of the story to me is that the broker didn't actually go ahead and buy it because he wasn't available. It wasn't available on the Morgan Stanley platform yet. So, oops. Secondly, as you might imagine, there are a number of of defense ETFs out there. Not the only way you can play it. This is the most elementary and poorly executed attempt at front running or insider trading, whatever you want to view it, allegedly, that I've ever seen. I mean, completely devoid of specific investment theses other than war's coming.
Yeah, and ironically, you would have been better served to buy XLE or ExxonMobil or Valero, or, I mean, you pick an energy company, that would have been the move. But, I mean, defense has done okay. It's done fine. It's outperformed the market at large, but it's not putting Nancy Pelosi money. And honestly, if he really had been smart, and the thing about Nancy Pelosi is she trades options. She's taking big levered bets. And you wonder, how does she crush the market so much? She's an options trader. And her husband, who, despite being hit in the head with a hammer, seems to be pretty talented at trading options. So they're not trading like you're trading. They're not like, oh, I know they're going to pass a bill and that's going to be really good for Kroger. I'm going to buy Kroger stock and oh, wow, it went up 2%. They're taking big levered bets in the options market where you're going to get a huge payout if things go well, but a lot of risk in those trades. So that helps to know. But it's a totally different style of trading, and it's not what you think it is. And honestly, if you had bought oil futures, you would have crushed it. But that would have been the move. I haven't checked Nancy Pelosi's account, but she probably did.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why Trump didn't tell people that he was going to attack Iran, because he didn't want him to front run.
He didn't want the trading activity.
Yeah.
TK, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but the day before the conflict with Iran started, IDEF was at $35.87. $35.87. What is it at now?
I bet it's relatively flat. I'd say 36.
I'm going to guess 35.67.
It is 32.64.
Whoa.
And that is with a 3.8% pre-market move, presumably because people are hearing about it for the first time, because there's only been about 915 shares traded pre-market.
I mean, that's the thing, is that the first 2 weeks of the year, defense stocks were on fire. They were all up double digits. And then we went to war, and the market at large has come down from then. So it actually makes sense that even if they're up for the year, call it 5%, they would be down from the highs, as is everything, except for oil.
Hegseth did. We got some narrative, some story that he did go see the boys out in the Middle East. Met for a little while. Didn't say exactly where, but went and saw the boots on the ground. I don't know. I'm pretty on the record of not liking Pete Hegseth. I like that move. That's cool. Like, go see him.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. All right, Tom. Jay Powell notes from yesterday via Ryan. That's what the subject is, and we've got points A through G, with some subpoints in there as well. What's most noteworthy?
I mean, the big one is he basically said that quantitative easing was not the cause of previous inflation, and that it may be back on the table. And I think that would be the absolute wrong move. If you want to take transitory inflation and make it permanent, that would be the move. He basically said, we're not gonna do anything. Energy disruptions tend to be short-lived, and monetary policy obviously works on a lag, which is true. I think what's interesting and what I keep coming back to is they cut interest rates when inflation was actually higher because it works on a lag. But now it's inappropriate to cut rates, even though it's possible that the inflation that we would see in the next 3 months will be gone by summertime, in which case you would want rates to be lower to match the future. So they just talk themselves in circles. I think Jay Powell, he's gotten just totally pretzeled by what his role is in the world. And I think that this interview was a really good example where he doesn't understand monetary policy. He doesn't understand how rates work. He doesn't understand what is and is not transitory inflation, and he refuses to look at the data. And he noted, he's monitoring private credit, which is fine. It's not really his job to do that because it's not a regulated area of the market, but it certainly could cause some problems once it starts kind of leaking in. You've seen that in high yield. High yield spreads have widened a fair amount, and there's not a lot of people who, one, probably don't have access to private credit, who are now worried about public credit that is lower grade. And I think that again, it's a false equivalency. So he's just a mess, man. I'm ready for him to be out. But he basically kind of threatened that he's still going to be on the Fed, and he's like, a new Fed chair can't come in here and just cut rates. Plus, I'm going to be there too. It's like, cool, man.
Go ride your bike.
Yeah.
So, Unilever is combining its food business with McCormick. McCormick, guarantee you have some of their products at home. Maybe not you, TK. How stocked is your kitchen?
Yeah, how's your spice rack?
Not stocked.
McCormick, very innovative. They make things like salt and black pepper.
Montreal steak seasoning, which is a real winner.
Yeah.
Cinnamon.
Yeah. I bet you're going to get some McCormick in there.
You would definitely recognize their...
Oh, I at the old house I had some McCormick stuff.
Okay.
We're running a little bit dry on that.
Yeah. Hicks, you a McCormick guy? Yeah, never a doubt. Classic. But Unilever is going to sell most of its food business to McCormick, leaving out a few tag-alongs, like their Indian operations. We're seeing activity, which I think
that's a whole nother spice rack.
Yeah, that's extra spicy.
You're getting into your garam masala,
your
curries.
McCormick's paying $15.7 billion in cash up front, taking the rest in stock. So that's the outcome there. But we saw some activity yesterday. Restaurant Depot did a deal. I honestly don't know the details on that, but Ben said it happened, so I'll believe him. But we're seeing some activity. We really had a very, very quiet 3 or 4 week run of lack of M&A, lack of kind of any news story other than the war. Perhaps we're crawling out of that a little bit as the quarter comes to a close. Ben will be back tomorrow. He says he's got a lot of takeaways from his Eastern Seaboard tour. So
he's going to be fired up.
Yeah, buckle up.
He's got a lot of pent-up thoughts.
We will probably just mute and let Ben go, and it'll be fun. We do have the Jacob's Ladder event tomorrow at 12:30. Come by, have lunch, and hear more about that organization. Check out the podcast we did with them. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel or wherever you're getting your podcast, and we will talk to you soon.